Proverbs chapter 8, verses 1 through 4 and verses 22 through 31. Does not wisdom call, and understanding raise her voice? On the heights beside the way, at the crossroads she takes her stand. Beside the gates in front of the town, at the entrance of the portals she cries out. To you, O people, I call, and my cry is to all who live. The Lord created me at the beginning of his work, the first of his acts of long ago. Ages ago I was set up, at the first, before the beginning of the earth. There were no depths, I was brought forth, when there were no springs abounding with water. Before the mountains had been shaped, before the hills I was brought forth, when he had not yet made earth and fields, or the world's first bits of soil. When he established the heavens, I was there. When he drew a circle on the face of the deep, when he made firm the skies above, when he established the fountains of the deep, when he assigned to the sea its limit, so that the waters might not transgress his command. When he marked out the foundations of the earth, then I was beside him, like a master worker, and I was daily his delight, playing before him always, playing in his inhabited world, and delighting in the human race.
Thank you, Emmett. Kids can go to church school now. Will you pray with me? May the words of my lips and the meditations of each of our hearts be acceptable to you, O God, our strength and our Redeemer. Amen. So the passage that Emmett just read for us is what inspired me to start this summer sermon series on the book of Proverbs, with today's passage as a jumping off point. Proverbs doesn't show up a lot in our yearly lectionary options, likely because it's not an especially religious text or a spiritual book, weirdly, aside from today's beautiful cosmological passage putting woman wisdom alongside God and the creation of the universe. The authorship of Proverbs is unknown. It's attributed to Solomon, but it's really just an anthology of poems and sayings from the educated people of the time, scribes, priests, counselors to royalty. It was probably geared towards an audience of young men about to enter into the workforce or enter into a trade of some kind, just going into the real world. Ultimately, though, the purpose is to teach one how to acquire wisdom and avoid folly, how to live a good and ethical life, which is relevant to all people. But before, in the coming weeks, as we get into sayings and instructions for living that life, we have today's poem about wisdom's relationship to God, creation, and of course to us. When we think about the concept of wisdom, I think, and we think about, instruction for living a good, faithful, and ethical life, I think it can feel very serious, right? Very solemn. But the thing that stood out to me in reading this passage was the end, was verses 30 and 31. I was beside God like a master worker, and I was daily his delight, playing always before him, playing in his inhabited world, and delighting in the human race. There's such a playfulness to this. There's an excitement about being part of creation, about helping God create all this beauty and wonder, delighting in the human race. So here is wisdom, watching humanity learn from her, feeling them embrace her, grow and evolve, and she delights in it. And watching how we learn, how we change, how we love, and how we live. It strikes me that this is an excitement and it's also curiosity. And it reminds me of the feelings of utter joy I have in watching Frankie learn and grow, hearing her come up with new words, seeing her master new skills. I'm curious and excited about what she'll do next. She's curious and excited about this still new world she continues to discover. And of course she's excited and curious. There is so much available to her. There's so much to learn and to do and to see. And at the beginning of our passage today, wisdom says, "To you, O people, I call, and my cry is to all who live." Wisdom is available to all. Wisdom is accessible to all. It's inclusive to all. What a beautiful thing. But we have to want it. Now, I don't know if any of you are kind of as freaked out about the rapid acceleration of artificial intelligence as I am, but it's been on my mind a lot lately. I asked some teacher friends and my professor husband if they've noticed sort of a decline in curiosity since AI became so readily available. My friends said it's kind of been a slow and steady decline, really, even since they could just Google something and have the answer in seconds. No additional research, no looking further. Just typing something into their phones, getting the answer, and moving along with their day. One friend said what scares her the most is more the AI algorithms on platforms like TikTok, feeding kids false information, sometimes full-on lies, and those students just taking it as fact. She sees that more than anything. And I think this goes hand in hand with that declining of curiosity, because it's easier to just assume everything we hear or read on the internet is real. It takes a lot of mental energy to wonder if you're being deceived, and no one wants to believe they were deceived. No one wants to believe that they've been taken advantage of, bamboozled, or tricked. So they take what they hear as fact, and then when they're embarrassed that they're wrong, they double down. It's a vicious and depressing cycle. Our pride and our arrogance get in the way of that pure curiosity, of open-mindedness and growth. Wisdom is accessible, available, and inclusive to all, so why do so many people dismiss it? Why are there so many people incurious about the world and what they could do to make it better? Why do so many people consciously or unconsciously subscribe to an ignorance is bliss way of life? There's just so much work to do to make this world a safe... I love happy baby noises. There's just so much more work to do to make this world a safe and comfortable place for all. And when the task at hand seems so daunting, when there's a figurative or, sadly, in today's case, a literal army of people standing in the way of progress and love, it's easier to stay incurious, to assume there's nothing we can do, to stop trying to think of creative ways to improve society, to fight back against the powerful. You know, it's really interesting when I hear pro-AI arguments because they often try to defend AI as just sort of a tool for the common person, to be more efficient, to enhance our lives. But we're not talking about the printing press here. This isn't about giving tools of progress and knowledge to better the lives of the common folk, because it's the people in power who are behind AI. They are creating the algorithms. They are creating the codes, and they are engineering how it interacts with us. Now, I know I sound like a dystopian conspiracy theorist right now, but bear with me. The CEO of OpenAI and ChatGPT is over here making billion-dollar deals with Saudi kings and other oppressive regimes. The bill that Congress is desperately trying to push through right now, in addition to cutting so much of our social safety net, it completely guts any regulation of AI, which will make deep fakes and deceptive videos all the more rampant, creating more distrust and chaos. Because the more confused, scared, and divided we are, the more power that they are able to hoard. In fact, there's been a troubling proliferation of either misleading or completely fake photos and videos circulating in regards to the LA protests, making it seem that the city is engulfed in flames and violence when the protests have been by and large peaceful, and any violence can be pinpointed to just a couple small pockets. Because the less curiosity we have, and the less critical thinking we do, the more outrageous claims we'll believe, and we will continue to fall deeper into chaos and violence. My cry is to all who live, says wisdom. Wisdom, who has been with God since the beginning of the cosmos, who has watched and assisted with utter glee and love humanity evolve and learn and create. Wisdom, who saw God establish the heavens and then saw humanity make constellations and navigate the waters with those stars. Wisdom, who has been with God since the mountains were shaped, who has watched human and animal alike climb and explore. Wisdom, who saw humanity learn about soil and plants, saw them sustain themselves thanks to the gifts of God's nature. She has always been with us, always been available to us as we learn and grow, as we acquire more and more of her, more and more wisdom. Woman wisdom in our passage today is full of joy and playfulness and delight, watching humanity embrace her. But she is surely in tears watching us today. Now I'm going to repeat myself here. I've talked about this lyric in this specific song before, but it's from a song by one of my favorite musicians, Bonnie Prince Billy, and he writes about his toddler daughter, and he says, "Watch what we will do now, able to see it all through the eyes of someone smaller." This resonates with me so much right now. Being able to experience such joy and watching Frankie, learning new things I've relearning them, things I've known for decades. And I hope we can all continue to be that curious. I hope we can all continue to try to learn and grow, to try to experience awe, that we won't give in to rage bait, that we won't give in to anger that misleading videos and photos are designed to create. I hope we can be not just curious about the world, but curious about each other, about our fellow humans. I hope we can delight in one another, mirroring that relationship between God and wisdom, helping each other, exciting each other, encouraging each other. I was working on this sermon yesterday, just as I saw the news about those 2 Democratic state senators in Minnesota who were targeted, one of them and her husband assassinated, in what seems to be an act of political violence. And it was hard. It was hard to write about curiosity and joy and delight. Well, I was thinking about so many people in our own community, in our own congregation here, who were out at various protests yesterday, knowing that deep down here in Vermont they'd be safe, that they would be out proudly protesting, not giving in to fear, but it was still hard to keep writing this sermon with this positive, lighter message, with these worries in the back of my mind. It's hard to continue to write about curiosity and joy and delight with so much violence and uncertainty unfolding across our country, continued violence and deeply unnecessary acts of war abroad. There's such an innocence to wisdom's words. There's so much hope and excitement in her poetry, reminiscing about the beginning of creation, filled with so much possibility of what humanity will do, what we would produce, what we would create ourselves. It's hard to reconcile that love and hope with the heaviness that's in the air right now. But I can't help but believe that this love and this delight that wisdom has for humanity, for us, can be recaptured. I can't help but have faith that we will get through this harrowing time, and I really do believe, that we do that by being curious. We take a step back and we delight in what is possible. We take a step back and see people for who they really are. We take a step back from the inflammatory and sometimes all-out false narratives that flood our TVs and our phones. And we think about the good and loving people in our lives, the interesting and ridiculous characters in our lives in this community. We listen to each other. We really listen. We hear each other. We listen to ideas and stories and histories, and we grow. able to see it through the eyes of someone smaller, to see it through the eyes of someone, of something full of hope and possibility, able to deny the temptations of easy answers engineered for us by the powerful, and instead continue to wonder and question and create, able to stay curious about our world and curious about each other, to be out in the world, connecting with people, rather than machines and algorithms, rather than being stuck behind screens, doom scrolling, falling into pits of despair, able to play in God's inhabited world, delighting in the human race. So delight in each other. Find joy and hope and love in the midst of chaos and cruelty. Do not give in to that fear that's being fed to you, that's being fed to you by the powerful who control those algorithms. Play in the world, delight in the world, be out in it, be curious, be joyful, because that is part of being wise. Embracing wisdom is not just solitary, serious discernment. It means joy, it means love, it means connection. Be curious, be hopeful. Know that the love of God, the love of wisdom is available to you, is available to all. It cries out to all who live. Amen.